France, August 1944. Inside 3rd Army Headquarters, the air is thick with cigarette smoke and urgency. Maps cover every wall. Phones ring without pause. Outside, the thunder of armor moving east never really stops. Then a signals officer bursts into the command post, breathless, clutching a folded message like it's a live grenade. The paper is stamped with the highest classification markings, the kind meant only for Eisenhower and a handful of senior commanders at Supreme Headquarters. The officer hesitates, knowing exactly where the line is. He clears his throat and says carefully that the transmission wasn't addressed to 3rd Army, that technically General Patton isn't cleared to see it. Patton doesn't even slow down. He snatches the message from the officer's hands and scans it in seconds. His eyes narrow. Then that familiar predatory grin spreads across his face, the one his staff has learned to fear and admire in equal measure. He looks up and says quietly, "I didn't hear that. And you didn't tell me I wasn't supposed to see this." He turns to his operations officer without another word. "Get me 8th Corps," he says. "We're moving. Now." Within hours, 3rd Army is on the move, executing a maneuver that was never authorized, never coordinated, and was never supposed to be known to Patton in the first place. Somewhere far to the rear, Allied headquarters is about to learn a lesson it has learned before and will learn again. Giving George Patton information, even by accident, is the same as giving him permission. This is the story of how Patton intercepted classified orders meant for other commanders, acted on intelligence he was never supposed to have, and launched operations that horrified his superiors but delivered results that changed the campaign in France. It reveals the core of Patton's philosophy, a belief he lived by without apology. Forgiveness is easier to obtain than permission, and in war, speed matters more than protocol. It also explains why Eisenhower and Bradley spent half the war trying to restrain Patton, and the other half being grateful they failed. By August 1944, the Allied breakout from Normandy is succeeding beyond even the most optimistic expectations. German lines have shattered. Resistance in many sectors has collapsed entirely. Patton's 3rd Army, activated only weeks earlier, is racing across France at a pace no modern army has ever matched. Columns of American armor roll through towns that still have chalkboard signs welcoming German troops. German units retreat in chaos, abandoning vehicles, artillery, even entire headquarters. But success creates its own problems. Logistics strain to the breaking point. Fuel, ammunition, food, spare parts, everything is in short supply. Multiple Allied armies are advancing at once: American, British, Canadian, Free French. Eisenhower's headquarters at SHAEF is struggling to keep it all synchronized. Every commander wants priority for supplies. Every headquarters has a different idea about where the main effort should go next. Eisenhower's job is to balance all of it while keeping the overall strategy coherent. To manage this, SHAEF develops operational plans at the highest level. These are tightly controlled documents, distributed only to Army Group commanders and above. Corps and Army commanders like Patton receive instructions through the chain of command, filtered and simplified into specific tasks. From an organizational standpoint, it makes perfect sense. Too much information flowing to too many commanders invites confusion and disaster. Operational security demands that only those who need to know. The downside is that subordinate commanders often don't see the big picture. They're told what to do, but not always why. They receive an order to halt, or to advance to a line, without understanding the larger strategic design. Patton hated this system. He believed commanders fought better when they understood the overall plan, when they could see opportunities and exploit them without waiting for permission. He also believed, often correctly, that many of these plans were crafted by staff officers who had never seen combat, men who fought wars with maps and timetables instead of blood and mud. So Patton did what he always did. He looked for ways around the rules. Third Army had excellent signals intelligence. Its operators routinely intercepted German radio traffic, providing Patton with valuable insight into enemy movements and intentions. But radio waves don't respect chains of command. Along with German transmissions, Third Army operators sometimes picked up Allied traffic as well, including high-level messages being passed between SHAEF and Army Group headquarters. Technically, Patton's signals personnel were not supposed to decrypt or even read Allied messages that weren't addressed to them. Doing so violated protocol and potentially the law. Patton's view was simple. If it's on the radio, it's fair game. The incident that became legendary occurred in mid-August 1944, as the Falaise Pocket was beginning to form. SHAEF transmitted operational guidance to 12th Army Group, Bradley's command, outlining the planned encirclement of German forces in Normandy. The message detailed which units would advance from which directions, where they were to halt to avoid friendly fire, and how the pocket would be sealed. The order was encrypted, but with codes Allied signals units could easily decrypt. It was meant to keep the Germans out, not fellow Allied commanders. Patton's signals officers intercepted it. They brought it to their immediate superior, who understood exactly how dangerous this could be. After a brief hesitation, the message made its way to Patton. As he read it, the entire operational picture snapped into focus. The message revealed that other Allied forces were being ordered to halt at certain positions to avoid colliding with Third Army units. That meant SHAEF expected Third Army to advance farther and faster than Patton's current orders indicated. It also revealed Bradley's caution, his concern about coordinating with British and Canadian forces pushing south from the north before closing the pocket too tightly. Patton immediately saw the opportunity. If he pushed his forces forward right now, before formal orders arrived, he could reach critical terrain faster. He could help close the pocket sooner, trap more German troops, and exploit the enemy's disorganization before they escaped. His staff officers were alarmed. They pointed out the obvious problem. They were not supposed to have this information. Acting on it could lead to serious consequences. Patton waved the concern aside. "What orders?" he said. "I didn't receive any orders. I'm just exercising initiative based on the tactical situation. If my forces happen to be exactly where SHAEF wants them, that's good military judgment, not insubordination." It was classic Patton logic. Plausible deniability wrapped around aggressive action. He immediately ordered 8th Corps to advance toward Argentan, a key town on the southern edge of the forming pocket. This wasn't a minor adjustment. It was a major commitment of men, tanks, and fuel, launched without authorization from Army Group headquarters. If Patton was wrong, if the intelligence was outdated, if plans had changed, if he misunderstood the situation, he risked chaos. Units could collide with Allied forces. Supplies could be wasted. Friendly fire incidents could erupt. And if it all went wrong, the reason would be damning. He had acted on classified information he was never supposed to see. By regulation, this was a court-martial offense. But Patton had calculated the odds. He believed the intelligence was accurate. SHAEF's plans made sense given the situation on the ground. He believed speed mattered more than perfect coordination, that every hour of delay gave the Germans time to escape. He believed Bradley and Eisenhower would forgive the violation if it produced results. And finally, he believed that even if questioned, he could always claim coincidence. He had simply read the battlefield correctly. His staff was terrified. If this failed, careers would end. But Patton was calm. He understood something they did not. In war, success forgives everything. Failure condemns everything. The only real question was whether he would win. Third Army surged forward at a pace that stunned everyone. Within 24 hours, American armor reached positions Bradley's planners hadn't expected them to reach for days. Towns scheduled to be taken on the 14th fell on the 12th. Reports filtered back to 12th Army Group headquarters. Confusion followed. Why was 3rd Army so far forward? Had an order been missed? Bradley called Patton. Patton's explanation was smooth. He'd seen weak German resistance and exploited it. Wasn't that the goal? Should he halt? Bradley knew exactly what had happened. Patton had somehow learned about plans meant only for higher headquarters. Over the radio, the exchange grew tense. Bradley asked how Patton knew to advance toward Argentan. Patton replied that he didn't know anything. He just attacked toward the sound of the guns. Bradley pressed him. Patton shrugged it off. If he happened to be where Bradley wanted him, that was good generalship. Bradley faced a choice. He could rein Patton in, investigate the intelligence breach, and possibly destroy careers. Or he could accept the reality that Patton had once again delivered results by ignoring the rules. He chose pragmatism. Patton was ordered to hold his positions and wait for British forces to close from the north. Patton had won again. When Eisenhower learned of the incident, his reaction was a mixture of frustration and reluctant admiration. Patton had violated protocol, but he had also accelerated the encirclement and inflicted heavy losses on the Germans. The episode raised uncomfortable questions about command and control. If commanders acted on intercepted orders, how could SHAEF coordinate multinational operations? Some staff officers argued for tighter security and stricter discipline. Others argued that Patton should be formally reprimanded. Eisenhower did neither. He couldn't afford to cripple communications, and he couldn't afford to sideline a general who kept winning. Instead, he spoke to Patton privately. The message was clear. The results were appreciated. But it shouldn't happen again. And if it did, it had better work. Patton reportedly told Eisenhower that he would always do whatever won battles, even if it meant reading messages he wasn't supposed to read. Court-martial him after the war, he said. This wasn't an isolated case. Throughout the campaign, Patton repeatedly acted on information he technically wasn't authorized to have. Sometimes he intercepted radio traffic. Sometimes he picked up hints in conversations. Sometimes he simply guessed what SHAEF intended and acted as if it had already been approved. His philosophy never changed. Decisive action mattered more than perfect permission. It drove his superiors to exhaustion. But it also delivered results. Third Army advanced faster, captured more ground, and destroyed more German forces than almost any other Allied formation. Was it brilliance or insubordination? The truth is, it was both. Patton's methods carried real risks, and those risks sometimes cost lives. But in the collapsing chaos of Germany's defeat, speed and aggression often mattered more than flawless coordination. When that signals officer told Patton he wasn't cleared to see the message, he was absolutely right. Patton's reply, "I didn't hear that," captured everything about his command style. Rules were tools. Permission was optional. Winning was everything. Patton could get away with it because he was Patton. Others trying the same thing might have caused disaster. And that may be the real lesson. Exceptional circumstances sometimes demand exceptional measures, but only exceptional leaders survive breaking the rules. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Patton's most controversial command decisions, hit like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what other moments of military history you'd like explored. Thanks for watching. And remember, breaking the rules is only brilliant if it works. Otherwise, It's just insubordination.